First contact. Diplomat Linux's antennae twitched nervously as he studied the classified military report before him. The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across his scaled features, illuminating the grave news. Humans, the only known civilization with ships dedicated entirely to warfare, had breached the outer defenses of Norcad. How could an intelligent species devote so many resources to building weapons of destruction? He wondered aloud, his eyes wide with disbelief. The display showed the formidable human fleet, massive battle cruisers bristling with rail guns, sleek carriers disgorging swarms of fighter craft, and nimble destroyers darting between the behemoths like deadly vipers. In stark contrast, the Norcan ships were elegant and streamlined, their hulls adorned with intricate artwork celebrating the unity and cooperation that had allowed their civilization to flourish for millennia. Not a single Norcan vessel carried offensive weaponry, their technology focused entirely on exploration, diplomacy, and defense. The Norcadian High Council convened an emergency session in the Great Crystal Dome of Unity Hall. Ancient tapestries depicting the peaceful achievements of their species hung from towering columns, seeming to mock their current predicament. Linux found himself thrust into the center of the crisis, tasked with a mission that could determine the fate of both civilizations, establish peaceful relations with the United Earth Alliance and uncover the motivations behind their aggressive posturing. Meanwhile, on Earth, a similar meeting unfolded in the sterile, utilitarian chambers of UEA headquarters. Isaac Roberts, a young and idealistic diplomat, listened intently as his superiors outlined his assignment. He would journey to Xeria, a Norcadian colony world, to negotiate an alliance while gathering intelligence on their advanced propulsion technology. Isaac's mission was complicated by the rising tide of xenophobia sweeping across Earth. Nationalist groups like Earth First stoked the flames of fear and hatred, demanding that humanity assert its dominance over the alien threat. Their propaganda filled the streets and airwaves, painting the Norcadians as insidious infiltrators waiting to strike. As Isaac boarded the UES Endeavour, the crown jewel of Earth's mighty armada, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was sailing into uncharted waters. The ship's corridors buzzed with barely contained tension, many crew members viewed his diplomatic mission with open skepticism. Captain Elena Martinez, a veteran of the Proxima campaign, pulled Isaac aside before departure. "Listen carefully, diplomat," she said, her voice low and urgent. "Not everyone on this ship shares your optimistic view of alien relations. Watch your back." The journey to Xeria took 3 weeks in hyperspace. Isaac spent the time studying Norcadian culture and customs, determined to make a positive first impression. The more he learned about their civilization's achievements in art, science, and philosophy, the more he questioned Earth's militant stance. When the Endeavour finally dropped out of hyperspace, the sight of Xeria took Isaac's breath away. The planet was a jewel of amber and turquoise, its atmosphere shimmering with aurora-like phenomena created by its unique magnetic field. Norcadian cities dotted the surface like delicate crystalline formations. But beauty wasn't the only thing that caught his attention. His trained eye noticed the subtle shimmer of defensive shields enveloping key installations. The Norcadians might be peaceful, but they weren't naive. As Isaac's shuttle descended toward the capital city of New Harmony, he received an urgent transmission from Earth. The message was brief but chilling: exercise extreme caution. Intelligence suggests possible theft of military tech. Trust no one. The warning left Isaac with a knot in his stomach. Were there really Norcadian factions plotting against Earth, or was this another example of paranoid human projection? He would soon find out, but the answer might not be what either side wanted to hear. Linux, meanwhile, had arrived on Earth with his own set of challenges. The human world was a shock to his senses, crowded, noisy, and filled with contradictions. Towering skyscrapers of steel and glass stood alongside ancient structures of stone and wood. Military vessels shared the skies with civilian craft in an uneasy dance. His first meeting with the UEA Security Council was scheduled for the following morning. As he prepared in his heavily guarded quarters, Linux received an encrypted message from the High Council: evidence suggests human weapons development accelerating. Time may be running out for peaceful resolution. The stage was set for a diplomatic dance that would test the limits of both species' capacity for understanding and trust. 2 diplomats, 2 civilizations, 1 destiny. The next few days would determine whether their differences would lead to war or wisdom. That night, neither Linux nor Isaac slept well. Each lay awake in their respective quarters, watching alien stars through viewport windows, wondering if they were really so different after all. The fate of billions rested on their ability to bridge the gap between their worlds. Hidden agendas. Isaac's first days on Xiria proved both enlightening and troubling. The Norcadian capital was a marvel of organic architecture, with buildings that seemed to grow from the earth itself, their crystalline spires reaching toward the amber sky. But beneath the surface beauty, he sensed an undercurrent of tension. His diplomatic meetings were interrupted by an unexpected visitor, Dr. Vexus, a prominent Norcadian scientist with piercing emerald eyes and an urgent manner. She requested a private audience, citing matters of planetary security. "Our colony is in trouble," Dr. Vexus explained once they were alone. "Resources are running low, and some of my people are growing desperate." She fixed Isaac with an intense gaze. "There's a faction, led by a man named Malik, who believes stealing your warship technology is the answer." Isaac felt a chill run down his spine. If Malik succeeds, it could spark a war between our species. "Precisely," Dr. Vexus nodded grimly. "We must stop him before it's too late." Meanwhile on Earth, Linux found himself in increasingly hostile territory. His meeting with Admiral Victor Ramsey, head of UEA Strategic Operations, had devolved into barely contained hostility. "Your kind can't be trusted," Ramsey spat, his face flushed with anger. "I bet you're here to spy on us, to find weaknesses you can exploit." Linux maintained his composure, though his scales rippled with stress. "Admiral, I assure you that my intentions are purely peaceful. We have no desire for conflict with humanity." "Save your lies for someone who'll believe them," Ramsey stormed out, leaving Linux shaken. A moment later, a woman in a crisp military uniform entered. "Don't mind Victor. He's always been a hothead and a xenophobe." She extended her hand. "General Evelyn Saunders, retired. I'm here because I believe in your mission, Diplomat Linux." Back on Xiria, Isaac and Dr. Vexus had discovered disturbing evidence. Security footage from the UES Endeavour showed unauthorized access attempts from multiple terminals. "That's one of Malik's agents," Dr. Vexus pointed to a blurry figure. "They're trying to hack into your ship's systems." Working together, they traced the signal to a hidden base in a remote sector of the colony. The facility was cleverly disguised as an agricultural research station, but power readings suggested something far more sinister. "If we do this, we'll be going against both our governments," Isaac warned. Dr. Vexus met his gaze steadily. "I know. But if we don't act, millions could die in a war that neither of our peoples wants." Their infiltration of the base went smoothly, too smoothly. As they reached the central control room, Commander Thorne and a squad of Norcadian security forces emerged from hiding, weapons trained on them. Malik himself stepped from the shadows, a triumphant smirk on his face. "Well, well. The human diplomat and the traitor scientist. You've saved me the trouble of hunting you down." On Earth, Linux was making progress despite Admiral Ramsey's hostility. General Saunders had introduced him to a network of moderate military officers and politicians who shared his vision of peaceful coexistence. But their coalition was fragile, threatened by mounting evidence of Norcadian espionage attempts. What neither Linux nor his human allies knew was that these incidents were being orchestrated by Admiral Ramsey himself, using deep cover operatives to create the appearance of Norcadian aggression. His ultimate goal, to justify a preemptive strike against the Norcadian homeworld. The conspiracy extended further than anyone suspected. Back on Xiria, as Malik gloated over his captured prisoners, Isaac noticed something odd about the technology in his base. Some of it was clearly of human origin, but with modifications that suggested intimate knowledge of UEA military systems. "You're working with someone on Earth," Isaac realized aloud. "Someone high up in the UEA command structure." Malik's smirk widened. "Very perceptive, diplomat. Shame you won't live long enough to warn anyone." But Malik had made a crucial mistake. In his arrogance, he'd failed to notice Dr. Vexus slowly working her hands free, using a natural Norcadian ability to alter their joint structure, an ability the restraints weren't designed to counter. The next few moments exploded in chaos. Dr. Vexus broke free, using her superior reflexes to disarm the nearest guard. Isaac took advantage of the distraction to tackle Malik, sending them both crashing into a bank of computers. Commander Thorne, revealed as a deep-cover agent for Norcadian internal security, turned his weapon on Malik's remaining forces. "Actually," he said with grim satisfaction, "we've been watching you for months." The firefight was brief but intense. When it ended, Malik was in custody, and his base's computers were yielding their secrets. The evidence they contained would shake both civilizations to their core. "This goes beyond stolen technology," Dr. Vexus said as she sifted through the data. Malik and his Earth allies were planning to trigger a war, then profit from supplying both sides with weapons. But before they could transmit their findings, proximity alarms began blaring. Multiple ships were dropping out of hyperspace, UEA warships, led by Admiral Ramsey's flagship. "No time for subtlety now," Isaac muttered, sending an emergency broadcast on all frequencies. The next few minutes would determine whether their discoveries would prevent a war or arrive too late to stop one. Ancient secrets. The UEA warships emerged from hyperspace like predatory beasts, their weapon systems charging with ominous energy. Admiral Ramsey's flagship, the Intrepid, took point position above Xeria's atmosphere. But Isaac and Dr. Vexus had one final card to play. "Admiral," Isaac broadcast on an open channel, "before you take any action, you need to see this." He transmitted the data they'd recovered from Malik's computers, including evidence of Ramsey's own involvement in the conspiracy. The response was immediate and violent. The Intrepid's main guns opened fire, not at the planet, but at Isaac's position. "Destroy that facility and everyone in it," Ramsey's voice crackled over the comm, "that's an order." But not everyone was willing to follow those orders. 3 UEA destroyers broke formation, moving to intercept the Intrepid's fire. Captain Elena Martinez's voice cut through the chaos, "Admiral Ramsey, stand down. You're relieved of command under Article 47, Conspiracy against the Alliance." In the midst of this standoff, Dr. Vexus made a startling discovery in Malik's database. "Isaac, look at this," she called, bringing up an ancient star chart. "These coordinates, they're referenced in both our oldest histories. A place of power, forgotten by both our peoples." The star map showed a system deep in unexplored space, marked with symbols that predated both human and Norcadian civilizations. According to the fragments of text Dr. Vexus could translate, it held answers about why humans had developed such a unique focus on warfare. Commander Thorne studied the coordinates with growing excitement. "I know this region. There have been rumors, stories of ancient ruins that neither of our peoples could explain." While the power struggle in orbit continued, Linux was making his own breakthrough on Earth. Working with General Saunders, he discovered records in the UEA archives that told of humanity's first encounters with alien artifacts, encounters that had shaped their military development in profound ways. "Your people weren't naturally warlike," Linux realized, sharing his findings with Saunders. "You were manipulated. Those early artifacts, they were weapons caches, deliberately left where humanity would find them." Saunders' face paled. "By whom? And why?" "That's what we need to find out," Linux replied. "And I think I know where to look." The coordinates he showed her matched exactly those that Isaac and Dr. Vexus had discovered on Xeria. With Admiral Ramsey under arrest and the immediate threat of war diffused, both species agreed to mount a joint expedition to the mysterious coordinates. The UES Endeavour, now under Captain Martinez's command, would carry a mixed crew of humans and Norcadians. The journey took them far beyond known space, to a region where the very fabric of reality seemed to thin. Strange energy readings defied analysis, and navigation computers struggled to maintain their bearings. Finally, they emerged into a system dominated by a dying red giant. Orbiting it was a single planet, or what remained of one. Its surface was scarred with the unmistakable wounds of ancient warfare, its continents shattered by weapons beyond current understanding. "My God," Isaac whispered as they entered orbit. "What happened here?" The answer lay in the ruins of a vast city complex near the planet's equator. As their shuttle descended, they could see that the architecture incorporated elements that would later appear in both human and Norcadian design. This was no coincidence, this was their shared heritage. In what appeared to be a central archive, they found their answers. Holographic recordings, miraculously preserved, told a chilling tale. This world had been home to an advanced civilization that had achieved perfect unity and peace, until they encountered another species that lived only for conquest. Rather than allow themselves to be subjugated, Dr. Vexus translated, they chose to fight back. But the weapons they created proved too powerful to control. In the end, both civilizations were destroyed. But not before they seeded the galaxy with their legacy, Commander Thorne added. The Norcadians found their message of peace and unity. While humans discovered their weapons, Isaac finished. We were both shaped by their experiences, but each only got half the story. As they explored further, they discovered something even more shocking. The ancient civilization had left behind a final gift, or perhaps a final test. Deep beneath the ruins lay a vault containing technology beyond anything either species had dreamed possible. The power here could guarantee victory for whoever controls it, Malik's voice rang out. He stepped from behind a pillar, flanked by armed followers. Somehow, he'd escaped custody and followed them to the ruins. Humanity will take its rightful place as rulers of the galaxy. But he wasn't the only unexpected arrival. Admiral Ramsey emerged from the shadows on the opposite side, having escaped during his transfer to Earth. For once, I agree with a Norcadian, he sneered. Though it'll be Earth doing the ruling. Isaac and Dr. Vexus exchanged glances. Everything they'd learned, all the progress they'd made toward peace, hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine not just the fate of their mission, but the future of both their species. The ancient vault pulsed with power behind them, its secrets waiting to be claimed. But would those secrets lead to salvation or destruction? The answer would depend on the choices they made in the next crucial minutes. The vault's choice. The ancient vault thrummed with power, its crystalline walls pulsing with an inner light that cast shifting shadows across the tense standoff. Admiral Ramsey and Malik's forces had them surrounded, weapons trained on Isaac's team from both sides. The vault's defenses are still active, Dr. Vexus whispered, her instruments detecting complex energy patterns. Any weapon's discharge could trigger them. Ramsey stepped forward, his boots crunching on millennia-old debris. Step aside, Roberts. This is bigger than your naive dreams of peace. Humanity needs this technology to survive. Survive what? Isaac challenged. The only threat to humanity is the one you've manufactured. You and Malik, manipulating both our species toward war. Malik's laugh echoed through the chamber. You still don't understand, do you? There are things out there far worse than either of our civilizations. The precursors knew, that's why they built all this. Commander Thorne's hand tightened on his weapon. If there are threats out there, shouldn't we face them together? Instead of fighting each other? A sudden tremor ran through the facility. The vault's entrance began to glow more intensely, ancient machinery awakening after eons of dormancy. Symbols appeared on its surface, flowing and changing. I can read it, Dr. Vexus said, her voice filled with wonder. It's not just a vault, it's a test. The precursors didn't want their technology falling into the wrong hands. As if responding to her words, the vault projected a series of holographic images. They showed scenes of devastating warfare, followed by images of cooperation and advancement. The message was clear: the vault would only open for those who had learned to choose peace over power. "It's a fool's game," Ramsay snarled. "Vexus, you're going to open that vault, or dash." His threat was cut short as another tremor shook the chamber, stronger this time. Cracks appeared in the ceiling, ancient support structures groaning under countless years of strain. The facilities becoming unstable, Isaac realized. "Your weapon's fire must have damaged something critical." Malik raised his weapon. "Then we do this the hard way. Open it, now." But Dr. Vexus stood her ground. "You don't understand what you're asking. The precursors built this place as a warning, not a weapons cache. Their own civilization was destroyed by the very technologies you're trying to claim." The shaking intensified. Parts of the ceiling began to collapse, forcing both groups to dodge falling debris. In the chaos, Isaac noticed something crucial: the vault's reaction seemed to intensify whenever weapons were raised in anger. "Everyone, lower your weapons," he shouted. "The facility isn't just unstable, it's responding to our actions. Our choices." Commander Thorne was the first to understand. He slowly placed his weapon on the ground, raising his empty hands. "He's right. Look at the symbols, they're changing." The flowing patterns on the vault's surface had indeed shifted, becoming more harmonious. The violent tremors subsided slightly. Dr. Vexus stepped forward, her voice carrying a note of revelation. "The precursors weren't just testing our technological capabilities. They were testing our wisdom, our ability to choose cooperation over conflict." One by one, members of both groups began lowering their weapons, the ancient facility responding with decreasing seismic activity. Only Ramsay and Malik remained armed, their faces twisted with frustrated rage. "You're all fools," Malik spat. "The galaxy belongs to the strong." He fired at the vault's surface, his weapon's energy beam reflecting chaotically around the chamber. The facility's response was immediate and devastating. The floor beneath Malik cracked open, swallowing him before anyone could react. Ramsay, seeing his ally's fate, finally dropped his weapon. The vault's entrance began to transform, its solid surface becoming translucent. Inside, they could see not weapons or tools of destruction, but something far more valuable: the complete historical and technological database of the precursor civilization. "They're giving us a choice," Isaac said softly. "We can learn from their mistakes, or we can repeat them." The decision they made in that chamber would reshape both their civilizations. But as they prepared to access the vault's contents, proximity alarms blared from their ships in orbit. Multiple vessels were emerging from hyperspace, and they weren't human or Norcadian. Unity's Edge. The unknown ships emerged from hyperspace like obsidian arrows, their hulls absorbing both light and sensor scans. Captain Martinez's voice crackled through the comm: "We're detecting 12 vessels, configuration unknown. They're not responding to hails." In the ancient facility, the vault symbols shifted rapidly, displaying urgent warnings. Dr. Vexus worked frantically to translate them. "They're calling them the Harvesters. They're what the precursors were fighting, a species that consumes other civilizations' technologies, leaving nothing behind." This facility, Isaac realized, it's not just a test. It's a warning system. We've activated some kind of beacon by accessing it. The ground shook as the alien ships began their assault. Their weapons were like nothing either humans or Norcadians had encountered, beams of dark energy that seemed to devour everything they touched. "The Endeavor's shields are failing," Martinez reported. "We can't hold them off alone." Commander Thorne accessed the facility's systems through the now open vault. "There are defensive systems here, but they need both human and Norcadian input to activate. The precursors designed it this way deliberately, only unified species can access their full power." Linux's voice came through their comms, transmitting from Earth through the facility's ancient network. The UEA fleet is mobilizing, but they won't reach you in time. Whatever you're going to do, do it now. Isaac and Dr. Vexus stepped up to the vault's control interfaces. As they placed their hands on the crystalline surfaces, the facility hummed to life. Ancient machinery, dormant for millennia, began to power up. The knowledge in this vault, Dr. Vexus said, her eyes scanning rapidly through streams of data, it's not just about weapons or defense. It's about transcendence, about moving beyond the cycle of violence. The Harvester's ships had entered orbit, their weapons tearing through the Endeavor's defenses. But as Isaac and Dr. Vexus worked in perfect synchronization, guided by the Precursor's wisdom, something extraordinary began to happen. Energy coursed through the facility's geological foundations, spreading across the planet's surface in a web of light. The vault wasn't just a repository, it was the key to awakening the entire world's defensive systems. Massive structures rose from beneath the planet's surface, not weapons, but something far more sophisticated. They created a field of transformative energy that enveloped the Harvester ships. Instead of destroying them, it began to change them, converting their consume and destroy programming into something new. Understanding, Dr. Vexus breathed. The precursors found a way to break the cycle. Not through superior firepower, but through forced evolution. The Harvester ships hung motionless in orbit, their dark hulls gradually transforming, becoming translucent, then luminous. Their weapon systems dissolved, replaced by technologies of communication and creation. Admiral Ramsey, watching in awe, finally understood. This is why humanity developed warships. Not just to fight, but to survive long enough to reach this moment. To protect this knowledge until we were ready to move beyond warfare. The Vault's final message played out before them, to those who choose unity over division, who learn to balance strength with wisdom, we leave our legacy. The universe is vast and filled with wonders, but also with those who would destroy them. Be guardians, not conquerors. Grow beyond your origins. Linux, still coordinating with Earth, reported that similar facilities were awakening on other worlds, a network of precursor sites, waiting for species mature enough to use them wisely. As the transformed Harvester ships initiated peaceful contact, Isaac turned to Dr. Vexus. What do we do now? She smiled, her emerald eyes bright with possibility. We do what both our species do best. We explore, we learn, and we grow. Together. The joint human-Orcadian expedition had discovered something far greater than military advantage. They had found a path to transcendence, not just for their own species, but for all those caught in cycles of violence. Humanity's unique edge, their development of warships, had served its purpose. It had protected them, and by extension the Precursor's legacy, until they were ready to move beyond it. Now, those same ships would serve a new purpose, carrying the message of transformation to other worlds caught in the same cycle of conflict. As the sun set on the ancient world, casting long shadows through the crystalline structures of the precursor city, Isaac looked up at the transformed ships glowing in orbit. They were no longer just human vessels or Norcadian craft, but something new, symbols of what could be achieved when different species chose to face the universe's challenges together. The future that awaited them would not be free of challenges, but they would face them with new understanding. The age of warfare was ending. The age of unity had begun. The end.